Or not? Should the United States do something to stop Mr. Assange?
We're looking at that right now. The Justice Department is taking a look at that. I would argue that it's closer to being a high-tech terrorist than the Pentagon Papers.
I frankly, the head of WikiLeaks is not a particularly credible source in my mind. He is a, you know, to me, in my mind, he's a criminal, and he ought to be hunted down and grabbed and put on trial for what he has done here.
Information warfare is warfare, and Julian Assange is engaged in warfare. Information terrorism, which leads to people getting killed, is terrorism, and Julian Assange is engaged in terrorism. He should be treated as an enemy combatant. WikiLeaks should be closed down permanently and decisively.
I think the man is a high-tech terrorist, and I think he needs to be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, and if that becomes a problem, we need to change the law.
The way to deal with this is pretty simple. We got special ops forces. I mean, a dead man can't leak stuff. This guy's a traitor, a treasonous, and he has broken every law of the United States. The guy ought to be, and I'm not for the death penalty, so if I'm not for the death penalty, I only want to do it, illegally shoot the son of a...
Obama, if you're listening today, you should take this guy out, have the CIA take him out. We broke the law.
You don't have to act panic. You can act tough and say, if we catch you, we're going to hang you.
Yeah.
Our intelligence communities will find him. All right. That's what I'd like to see, a little drone hit Assange.
We have criminal proceedings underway. That's where I think the verdict is guilty on WikiLeaks.
WikiLeaks apparently today released what's described as a treasure trove of infrastructure targets around the world, which of course could be damaging not only to those countries but to U.S. interests. Why hasn't the government just gone ahead and shut down the site or shut down the dissemination of his information? Why can't you do that?
Well, let me condemn in the strongest terms the leaks of information that have come as a result of the actions that you've just referenced. National security of the United States has been put at risk. The lives of people who work for the American people has been put at risk. The American people themselves have been put at risk by these actions that are, I believe, arrogant, misguided, and ultimately not helpful in any way. We are doing everything that we can. We have a very serious, active, ongoing investigation that is criminal in nature. I authorized just last week a number of things to be done so that we can hopefully get to the bottom of this and hold people accountable as they should be.
What are things that can be done, and has the government explored the ability to be able to seize the sites? Last week you were before us saying, look at all the websites we seized and shut down. Yet you can't do that in this case at all. What are the parameters that are limiting that, and what are some of the actions that you did authorize to go forward?
Well, it's an ongoing investigation. I don't want to get into exactly what I authorized, but I can say that I personally authorized a number of things last week, and I think that's an indication of the seriousness with which we take this matter and the highest level involvement in the United States Department of Justice with regard to all the tactics that we can do or can use to ameliorate the consequences of these actions. I don't want to get into those as well, but we will do everything that we can, both to hold people accountable and to minimize the harm that will befall the American people.
Well, I think Assange should be assassinated, actually. I think Obama should put out a contract and maybe use a drone or something.
The United States strongly condemns the illegal disclosure of classified information. So let's be clear. This disclosure is not just an attack on America's foreign policy interests. It is an attack on the international community, the alliances and partnerships, the conversations and negotiations that safeguard global security and advance economic prosperity.
This potential database for all of our enemies that now hangs on the internet and provides an opportunity for them to mine, looking for weaknesses in force protection, tactics, techniques, and procedures, who we do business with, how we cultivate sources. All this stuff is potentially out there for people who wish to do us harm to take advantage of. Well, this is the Department of Defense. I mean, we're not one who makes judgments about legal remedies and the appropriate recourse and all that kind of stuff. But as I mentioned before, we're not alone in this endeavor. The FBI, the DOJ are also investigating this, are also involved in this matter, and they will obviously have to make judgments about how to proceed.
Congress can act in an expeditious and bipartisan manner to encourage and authorize the use by the executive branch of all necessary means to respond and defeat WikiLeaks.
How is it that the WikiLeaks guy remains free? You know, back in the old days when men were men and countries were countries, this guy would die of lead poisoning from a bullet in the brain, and nobody would know who put it there.
Julian Assange is a cyber terrorist in wartime. He's guilty of sabotage, espionage, crimes against humanity. He should be killed.
This man is an enemy of the state. WikiLeaks is a, perhaps some sort of a virtual weapon of mass destruction.
Right. That Mr. Assange has given aid and comfort to the enemy. He's empowered the enemy. He's put Americans at risk. He's put the allies of Americans at risk. This geopolitical, military, economic chess game that goes on constantly on the entire planet. He's taken away some of our advantage and he's given it to our enemies. And I wish and I hope that there's a way that we can find a way to prosecute a man like that we can protect ourselves. And if we fail to do that, or even if we're successful in that and it exposes some other vulnerabilities, I suggest, Mr. Speaker, that this Congress take a look at some new legislation, a new structure of law that's really not brought about because of the actions of Mr. Assange, but brought about because the actions of our enemies are terrorist enemies.
The foundation stone of this WikiLeaks issue is an illegal act. The Australian Federal Police is going to provide the government with some advice about potential criminal conduct of the individual involved. What I would say about the publication of the WikiLeaks information is it's grossly irresponsible.
I think that WikiLeaks and its founder, Julian Assange, should be facing criminal charges, and his website, which he uses to aid and abet our terrorist enemies, should also be shut down to defend our national security. It's time that the Obama administration treats WikiLeaks for what it is, a terrorist organization whose continued operations threatens our security. Shut it down. Shut it down. It is time to shut down this terrorist organization, this terrorist website, WikiLeaks. Shut it down, Attorney General Holder.